Okay, picking up where we left off, we're on page 120, and we're talking about doing just normal math, doing a formula. Difference between a function is built in, came with the system, and a formula is something that you type out. And the formula in our case was incredibly simple. Now, how do you look at a formula? Well, you click on the cell and look at the formula bar. So this formula, oh boy, it's a powerful formula. I'm going to patent this. I'm going to make $1 million. It's L30 minus L31, which is the cell reference. Whatever value is in L30, subtract the value of L31 from it and stuff it right where we're at. Okay, so it's kind of sort of simple. There's a table 4 on page 120, one that talks about all of the available math operators. Well, they're not all of them, but a bunch of them. I'm sorry, yeah. So page 121, basically, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and exponents. We're not going to be doing any exponent stuff for a while. Okay, the real thing is the order of precedence. Do you guys remember back in high school, you had to remember the order in which math works? And there was a cool little mnemonic thing. And the one I learned was, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Okay? And it's the letters, you know. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And that stood for parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. That's the normal order of things, okay? So for example, let me hit clear here. So I'm going to go to a formula here, and I'm going to type some stuff. And just I'm not using cell formulas here. I mean cell references. But here we go. So 8. Let's do 8 times 2 plus 5. Okay, what is that? Is that going to be 8 times 2? Is 16 plus 5? Or is it going to be 8 times 7? Well, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally tells me this multiplication is going to happen first. Okay? So if I hit return, it comes out 21. Okay? So how do I make it come out differently? So for example, I'm going to do this a little different. I'm going to say, 2 plus 5 times 8. And I really, really wanted it to be 42. Okay? I really wanted it to be that. So the way you change the order of precedence to make it work out, you go in here and you do this, and that'll force it to say, aha, I see what you meant. I expected you to want to do the multiplication before. So cool. So 56 rather than 42. All right, cool. Anyway, so do a couple of these exercises in the book to help you with how to do math. So you can imagine multiplication, division. There's no divide symbol, as you can tell. There's a little slash guy. The next thing we're going to talk about on page 123 is called conditional formatting. Now, I actually use it. This is actually pretty doggone cool. So there are scenarios. I'm going to go here and undo my filtering. And the way you undo filtering is you tell it select all. There's another way you can undo filtering. It's just to light up like this guy and go over here and say filtering and say go away. That'd be one way of doing it. Okay, now my filtering is gone. Okay, cool. Now, let's say, for example, I really have student names in here, and I want to very quickly find the good performing students and the poor performing students, but I do not want to resort the list. Okay? So there's this really, really cool thing called conditional formatting. That's the little guy right there. So I'm going to highlight this section. And then I'm going to go over here to say conditional formatting. And there's a lot of choices about, the top 10 or the top whatever. That'd be kind of cool. It's like this monstrous list. Let's say I don't know, let's say there was 5,000 rows of data. And you want to be able to see the top 10. That would be a cool one. The one I'm talking about, this is one called color scales. And the color scales are, this is the red, green, amber color scale. And so this one tells me, I'm just going to click this first guy. All right, now without sorting, can you immediately tell who the good performers are and who the bad performers are. Isn't that pretty cool? It's a visual cue of, okay, that guy made an F, that guy made an F. Here's some green guys are doing really good. You know, the orange is kind of halfway good. Yellow is doing okay. And so, you know, this is an excellent visual tool, and I actually use this. Let me show you an example where I actually use this in real life. When I put together your class, I'm trying to figure out how much effort there is in a chapter, so I calculate the number of pages that we're going to have each week. And so to see if there's something amiss, okay, I go here and I turn on conditional formatting, and I basically go in and in this case I want to have it reversed, where the red and the yellow are backwards, okay, so the high numbers become up red rather than the low numbers come up red. Okay, that tells me that chapter 7 is got an awful lot of pages. Okay, so I actually use this to kind of visually look at it and go, yeah, it looks like you know, looks like chapter 3 is going to be an easy chapter, but chapter 7 is going to be a tough chapter. So it's a very cool thing. Now, conditional formatting, there's tons of options, and I'm not going to go through them all. I mentioned the, you know, the top 10 or the top %. Those are very cool, but only if you have monstrous amount of data. In my case, I didn't have monstrous amount of data, and so instead, I just did the color bar thing. Okay, let's continue. There is some other ones. So let's say, for example, I wanted to do something different. Instead of having this randomly colored, I wanted to find out by letter grade, okay? I want to do coloring by letter grade. So now I want to pick the ranges specifically for what I want, rather than just have this thing kind of random. So I'm going to go here. Well, obviously I need a brand new set of rules. So these things are kind of weird, so let me just go through one. It's in the book. So it talks about formatting cells based upon their value. That makes sense. And so, do I want a 2-color scale? No, I don't want a 2-color scale. So, use a formula to determine which cells to format. Now, this is a little odd, because we're talking about format values where this formula is true. Okay, new formatting rule. I tell you what, this is going to take way too much time. Yeah, this is a long enough video as it is. Trust me, there's a way you can go in and tell it, and you have to kind of use Boolean logic. If you're not a programmer, it probably won't make too much sense. Where you have to go in there and say, you know, if the value is greater than 90, then make it green. You know, and okay. Let's move on instead. Okay, let's go to page 129, talking about hiding information. One of the things you can do is to highlight rows. By the way, I'm going to undo this conditional formatting thing. Okay, well, I'll leave it be. So, remember how we had the filtering turned on? So I'm going to go here and turn the filter on one more time. So I'm going to grab this guy and go here and turn the filter on. Cool. So, remember how we went in and we took one of them out? I don't know, I'm going to take that one out. Doink. And it changed. Cool? Well, that kind of sort of works. But I'm going to unfilter this. But you can manually go in and just hide a couple of rows. Let's say this person right here dropped. So I just want to hide that row completely. Not just in that one column, but all the way across for all the items, okay? This made it go away just for that one column. So, right click, and one of the things you can do is hide. Okay, now it does not turn blue like the filtering did, but you notice that once again, I mean, you really have to have good eyesight, okay? I really have to have good eyesight to see that little line right there is thick. So I will tell you, it is very, very easy to miss the fact that you have a row hidden, unless you just happen to see there's a 8 does not follow 10. Okay, now here's a Trivial Pursuit question. Remember how we have the subtotal guy going down at the bottom? So if I hide a row, is that going to do the exact same thing for the subtotal as happened when we filtered? In other words, is the sum and the subtotal going to be different now, just as if I had filtered? What do you think? And the answer is, drum roll, ding, yes it is. Hiding a row has the exact same effect as filtering a column. Cool. Alrighty. How do you unhide something? Well, it could be that there was multiple rows hidden. So one of the ways to do it is if you don't really know exactly where it is, but it's somewhere in the middle, you can just highlight a bunch of these guys. You don't have to be exact. Just get the range, and then hit right click, and there's one called unhide, and that'll find it. If you don't know where it is, there is a way that you can highlight every single cell in the entire spreadsheet with one click, and you hit this little corner right here. That means I want them all. And now you can do, well, I guess you have to scroll down to one of these guys. Now you can say unhide, and that'll, if it were hidden someplace, they ain't hidden now. Okay. Let's talk about one of the things that's kind of weird. There's ways you can hide grid lines. Now, this is a little weird because in my particular case, I've had cell borders. Now, grid lines are these soft gray colors. This is cell border. This is grid line. Okay, so I know it's a little weird, and it looks almost the same. So under page layout, there's a grid line view. So I'm just going to turn that off. Okay, now it didn't change my cell borders at all, but it just changed this stuff down here. And so a lot of people like that. I will tell you, when you print, these soft gray lines do not appear. Okay, now obviously the cell borders do. So the grid lines here are just for whether or not, well, if I wanted them to print, I'd click that button. But most people don't want them to print. Okay, cool. Let's say that I'm in the middle of doing something and I want to document all of our formulas. I want to print them out. Well, that would be kind of tough. Well, here's a kind of a weird thing that you can do. If you go to the formula bar, remember the tab here, not bar, tab. One of the things you can do is you can go in and tell it that you want to see all of the functions. So way over in the corner here, under Formula Auditing, you can click this button, and now, admittedly it messes up your entire spreadsheet, but because it throws all these, instead of having the actual values being shown, it actually shows you what the formulas are. And the only real purpose for doing this is if you wanted to turn around and print it. This would be a good way to document the formulas in your spreadsheet, because all the formulas have been turned on now, and which is going to be kind of weird. For example, let's go back over here to this schedule guy. Remember I told you how, now let's turn these formulas on. So that's the date, and here's all the formulas. Okay, kind of weird, huh? Okay, now immediately it messes up the widths of all the columns to make all this stuff. But it is useful. You temporarily turn this thing on, print your spreadsheet, and then you have a printed copy of the formulas in your spreadsheet without having to go find them. Okay. That, ladies and germs, is the end of this chapter. Thank goodness, huh? Okay, we'll see you guys again in some future chapter.